Okay, right. Let's unpack this then.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've brought us some really incredible source material here. And it all seems to circle around, well, something fundamental, doesn't it? Sadness. Something we often feel pretty awkward about.
Definitely. Yeah, this pile of,
Hmm.
articles, research notes, it really goes deep into why sadness is, well, it's complicated, it's unavoidable, and actually, maybe surprisingly, it could even be useful.
Useful, right?
But it also highlights why, particularly in, say, Western cultures, we're just not very good at dealing with it. It's
Mm.
almost like, society just gives us this message, just
Yeah.
get over it.
Yeah, snap out of it. Which, as these sources make pretty clear, isn't exactly helpful, is it?
Not really, no. Like telling water not to be wet, as you said.
So our mission, I suppose, in this deep dive is to really get into the landscape of sadness based on this material you've gathered.
Hmm.
We want to try and understand why we struggle so much, maybe uncover its purpose if it has one, and pull out the most, well, insightful, maybe even surprising strategies the sources suggest for actually navigating it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump straight into that struggle then. Because the material, it seems to establish pretty quickly, sadness isn't like a rare thing. It's not optional.
No, that's the absolute bedrock here.
Yeah.
The sources just keep emphasizing sadness happens
Hmm.
to all of us.
Right.
And it's not just for the big stuff, tragedy or loss. It's baked into the day-to-day. Disappointments, things going wrong,
Hmm.
the general sort of messiness of being human.
Uh-huh.
One source actually describes it as far more layered and complex than happiness, and it's everywhere. You just can't avoid it.
Okay, so it's everywhere, unavoidable. But knowing that, well, it doesn't seem to help us handle it any better, does it?
Apparently not.
The sources, they really stress that in many parts of the world we're, quote, pretty poor at handling it. What does that actually look like? How does that play out?
Well, often it means we isolate people who are feeling sad.
Hmm.
So if you're sad, you might feel you have to hide it. And then the people around you trying to help, they often feel completely lost, baffled, don't know what to say, what to do.
That cultural bit is fascinating, though. The contrast the sources draw
Yeah.
between, say, the US or UK view, where sad basically equals bad,
Right. Pathological, almost.
versus, say, Japan,
Yeah.
where the sources suggest things like melancholia, sensitivity, fragility, they aren't automatically seen as negative.
Exactly. It's a really sharp contrast. And what's particularly striking, based on the research they cite, is how this perception, this cultural view, doesn't just affect how we feel about sadness.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to actually impact our physical health.
Really? How so?
Well, there's research mentioned suggesting that in the U.S., lower positive emotions are genuinely linked to poorer physical health markers, like physically worse off.
Wow.
But in Japan, people reporting fewer positive emotions, they're described as pretty much fine.
So wait, the problem isn't just the sadness itself, but our attitude towards it, how we frame it.
That's exactly what the sources seem to suggest. They cite studies showing that people who kind of accept their mental experiences, the good and the bad, the difficult ones included,
Yeah.
they generally have better health outcomes
Mm-hmm.
overall. It's the people who try to avoid or judge the negative feelings. They're the ones more likely to report mood disorders later on.
Huh. So we're almost making ourselves sick by deciding that a normal human feeling is wrong.
It certainly suggests that, yeah, pathologizing something normal can just make things worse.
And on top of that internal struggle, there's the external pressure, isn't there? The constant message to just be happy.
Oh, absolutely. We're just surrounded by these curated images, aren't we? Smiley, happy, perfect lives, TV, social media.
Social media gets a specific mention, doesn't it?
It does. They reference researcher Mike Wicking, who found it's a hotbed of performative happiness.
Performative happiness. I like that phrase.
Yeah. And the finding was that it actually makes both sides feel worse. The person posting the happy picture and the person looking at it, it just sets up this completely unrealistic ideal.
Which links nicely to another point I saw in the material about high expectations.
Ah, yes, Tal Ben-Shahar's work.
Right. This idea that we set these impossibly high bars for ourselves, striving for some kind of flawless life journey when, let's be honest, life is messy. It's a squiggle.
And that perfectionism, it just leads to constant disappointment, doesn't it? And being really harsh on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The sources really hammer this point home.
Mm.
Lowering those expectations is actually really important for handling sadness better when it inevitably comes along.
It sounds like so many of these struggles start young.
Yeah, a lot seems rooted in childhood. The material talks about, being told, don't be sad, don't cry from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
There's even a suggestion from psychotherapist Julia Samuel that maybe a modern trend towards mollycoddling kids could be making them less resilient to sadness than, say, previous generations.
That kind of fits with the data mentioned about rises in things like drug prescriptions for kids in the UK.
It could be a sign, yeah.
Mm.
Looking for quick fixes instead of teaching emotional tolerance, maybe.
Mm.
And these early experiences, they really do shape how we cope as adults. The sources give examples like keeping incredibly busy all the time to avoid feeling anything painful.
Or developing a fear of commitment.
Yeah, we're struggling with negotiation or that perfectionism we mentioned.
Yeah.
These can all be defense mechanisms we learned early on against childhood pain or difficulty.
And the influence of actual past trauma. That's a huge piece here, too.
Definitely. Aphrodite Matsakis' work on childhood omnipotence comes up.
What's that again?
It's that intense, often totally misguided belief little kids can have that they're somehow responsible for everything happening around them. Even things like parents splitting up.
Yeah.
And the author's own story about her father leaving is used as an example of how that kind of early experience can fuel this lifelong drive to prove yourself, you know.
Yeah, I saw that. And the survivor guilt concept from Dr. Hannah Murray.
Oh, that's huge. Incredibly common,
Yeah.
apparently. That feeling that you don't deserve to feel sad because others didn't even survive.
Right.
Which can lead to just pushing yourself relentlessly.
Wow.
Jeff Saunders' story about his missing father is cited as another example of that kind of drive stemming from loss.
And there was a mention of boarding school culture, too, from Joy Shavarian.
Yeah, the potential link there to emotional repression,
Wow.
where maybe showing vulnerability was frowned upon, something you just didn't do.
So you put all that
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
and it leads people towards just avoiding or suppressing emotion, right? Trying to block it.
That's often the default.
Yeah.
But the sources are really clear with a warning here. Trying to deny feelings, stuff them down, bury them, constantly distract yourself, it can lead to dissociation, that feeling of being disconnected from yourself. And usually it just creates more problems down the line. It doesn't actually fix anything.
Okay, so let me recap this struggle part. We're dealing with something unavoidable.
Yep.
Our culture often tells us is bad. We face pressure to hide it. Our childhood might have trained us not to feel it properly. Past pain makes it more complex. And our typical reaction is often just to shove it down. Yeah. It's no wonder this feels so incredibly challenging for so many people.
It really paints a clear picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of the uphill battle. But this is where the sources, I think, take a really powerful and, frankly, more hopeful turn.
Okay.
They shift from just analyzing the struggle to actually exploring the purpose of sadness.
Yes. This felt like a crucial shift in the material, moving beyond seeing sadness as just a problem
Right.
and positioning it as something, well, normal, maybe even useful.
Yeah, useful. And one simple point, but quite profound, I thought, was that the lows actually help us appreciate the highs.
Makes sense.
To really feel contentment or joy, the sources suggest you kind of have to learn to make friends with sad, too.
Yeah.
You need the contrast.
They bring in Kierkegaard here, don't they?
They do. Suggesting that things like sadness, emptiness, anxiety, they aren't just, burdens to bear. They can actually be necessary catalysts for change. Like an opportunity to make a change in life. They force you to confront what isn't working. They give you a push.
Okay, that's interesting. And sadness as a sign of connection.
Yeah, feeling sad or scared often just means we care about something or someone. We're invested.
Right.
There's a related point from Jade Sullivan about anger, actually, that difficult emotions are like energy, showing that our boundaries have been crossed. Sadness can signal that too, perhaps in a different way.
Speaking of anger, the sources do touch on that as well as another powerful, maybe difficult energy.
Yes, noting that women sometimes find it harder to express anger compared to sadness or crying, but stressing its importance in signaling those crossed boundaries. And yeah, even screaming rage gets a mention as a potential outlet.
Okay. A bit intense maybe, but noted.
But what I found really fascinating was this idea presented that sadness might actually be, the problem-solving emotion.
The problem-solving emotion, really, that feels counterintuitive.
Doesn't it?
You'd think happiness or maybe curiosity would be the problem solvers.
Exactly. It's a surprising take. The suggestion is that sadness actually helps focus our attention on the specific issues that need resolving.
Huh. Okay. And what about tears? Crying?
Well, Charles Darwin famously thought they were useless, just a byproduct.
Right.
But the sources reference Ad Vingerhuis, who argues strongly against that, saying tears absolutely serve a purpose. They provide genuine relief, a physical release.
Okay, so putting this purpose section together, sadness isn't just passive suffering. It helps us appreciate joy. It can fuel change. It signals connection. It might even be key for problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a physical release through tears. That really does reframe it, doesn't it?
Completely changes the question. Instead of how do I get rid of this feeling?
Yeah.
It becomes more like, okay, what is this telling me
Yeah.
and how can I move through it?
Which leads us perfectly into that final, really practical section of
Yeah.
the material, the strategies, how to actually navigate sadness, given everything we've just talked about.
Right. The how-to, essentially.
So what's the first step? Where do the sources suggest we start?
It sounds deceptively simple. And for many of us, it's incredibly hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's allowing yourself to feel.
Just feel it.
Yeah. Not fighting it, not judging it, just letting the emotion be there, allowing it to move through you. It means sitting with that discomfort, even if it's just for a little while.
Okay. And tied to that is acknowledging and accepting the feelings, right?
Absolutely key. Don't feel you have to pretend you're fine. Don't feel ashamed for feeling sad. Just acknowledge, okay, this feeling is here right now.
And be kind to yourself about it.
Yes. Practicing humanity towards yourself and others. Giving sadness the time and space it needs to breathe. The sources actually warn that trying to constantly avoid this,
Yeah.
it can lead to lifelong problems, even serious things like depression down the line.
There was really practical suggestion in there, too, about planning for difficult times.
Oh, yeah, I like that one. Someone mentioned they plan for a massive cock-up every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Like building time into their life plan for a potential big setback, a death, a crisis. It's about acknowledging that pain is inevitable, not just sort of crossing your fingers and hoping it won't happen.
Integrating it. Okay. Now, a huge theme that came up again and again was talking about it.
Massive, yeah. Talking about loss specifically helps. And crucially, the sources emphasize, it is not your job to make other people feel comfortable about your sadness.
That's such a powerful point, isn't it? Because we often do feel that pressure to put on a brave face.
We do. But the advice is, talk your feelings out. Ideally out loud to someone you trust. It just makes the sadness feel lighter somehow, aired out.
They mentioned the buddy system.
Yeah, like in the U.S. Army or the Scouts. This is a great analogy, right? You don't have to handle being sad completely alone. Find your buddy.
And the flip side of that, the dangers of isolation.
Yes. Strongly linked in the research cited from Washington University, Robin Dunbar linking social isolation and loneliness directly to mental health issues like depression and anxiety.
How bad is it?
One source suggests isolation can be as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow. Okay. That's serious.
It really is.
And the material does acknowledge that talking can be particularly hard for men sometimes.
It does touch on that. Concepts like toxic masculinity, maybe a fear of losing control if they show vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
But it also highlights people in groups like Ian, Matt May, Alistair Campbell, the Lions Barber Collective, who are actively working to break down those barriers.
Which is so important.
Absolutely. And finding that person, whether it's a friend, family, therapist, who you feel you don't have to protect from how bad you're really feeling, that's vital.
Yeah.
Talking is how we find the words, isn't it?
Yeah.
For these difficult, often kind of shapeless emotions.
Okay, so talking is huge. What else? Beyond talking, engaging with culture and the arts comes up a lot.
Yes, as a really powerful source of kind of solace and connection.
Like reading.
Yeah, reading. Sven Brinkman is referenced, suggesting it helps us understand our existence, see life as this series of inevitable trials we all go through. Stories give us benchmarks for sadness maybe before we even experience it ourselves. They connect us, boost empathy. And audiobooks get a mention, too, as a good, accessible option.
And music.
Definitely. Playing sad music when you feel sad. It sounds weird, but it can actually help. Create a sense of belonging, give a name to the feeling, help you process it.
Right.
Classical music, pop songs, Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven is mentioned. Music that carries emotional weight can offer real solace.
What about visual arts or performance?
Visiting museums, galleries, concerts, also mentioned for emotional release. They even mention Stendhal syndrome, where people get literally overwhelmed by art's beauty or emotion.
Wow.
And structured things, too, like group activities, arts on prescription initiatives in places like Denmark and Sweden, seen as cost-effective ways to use culture for well-being. Shared reading groups, another example.
Okay. Culture and arts. Then there's nature and exercise, another big one.
Huge. Dr. William Bird calls the outdoors a great outpatient department.
I like that.
Forest schools teaching kids risk and resilience are mentioned, too.
And green exercise.
Yeah. Physical activity out in nature, shown to decrease tension. Dr. Lewis Elliott recommends about 2 hours a week in nature. for health benefits.
Does it matter what kind of nature?
Doesn't seem specified, but even just looking at water is described as restorative. And actually being in water, swimming, gives you this unique kind of gravity-free break.
Cold water swimming gets a specific mention for depression.
It does. The theory is it might activate the body's stress response in a controlled way, building resilience over time.
Interesting. And just exercise in general.
Absolutely fundamental. Dr. Brendan Stubbs' work is cited basically, not exercising actively makes us feel worse and is linked to depression. We need to move.
Walking gets a special shout out too.
Yeah, is a great problem-solving activity. Thinkers like Nietzsche, innovators like Steve Jobs, they were walkers. A Stanford study backs this up too.
And it's accessible, right? Even when you feel really low.
Exactly. It's not daunting. And just the act of moving seems to help process emotions.
Okay. Talk, arts, nature, exercise. What about rest?
Critical. The sources really push back against this modern culture of performing busyness.
Right. Acting like you're always rushed off your feet.
Yeah, and overestimating our capacity, underestimating how draining things like parenthood can be. Rest is vital for mind, body, creativity.
So practical tips for rest.
Prioritizing sleep, obviously, napping. And Alex Sujong Kempang suggests even planning proper periods of total rest, like maybe a week off every season.
A week off every season. Sounds nice.
Doesn't it? And the sources also warn against multitasking, says it actually reduces productivity. And smartphone overuse, a modern distraction that fragments our attention and might even pull us away from giving kids the attention they need.
Good points. Okay, what about diet? That came up too.
Surprisingly impactful, according to the research cited. Professor Felice Jacque's work shows that improving diet can significantly improve depression symptoms.
Even in people who aren't clinically depressed.
Yes, even in non-depressed individuals. It really highlights the gut-brain axis connection. What you eat matters for your mood.
Fascinating. Okay, another strategy. Helping others.
Yeah, things like activism, campaigning, volunteering, doing good for others. Joshua Becker makes the point it has intrinsic value. Karen Armstrong talks about the golden rule, compassion.
And it helps us too.
Seems so. Helping others is linked to our own well-being. It can give a sense of purpose when maybe you're struggling yourself.
Right. And almost finally, self-compassion. This seems woven through everything.
Absolutely. It comes up again and again. Lowering expectations for yourself, for others, cutting yourself some slack.
A good enough approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Linked to Donald Winnicott, Tal Ben-Shahar, recognizing that relentless perfectionism is often tied to low self-esteem and just sets you up for disappointment. Be kinder to yourself.
And the very last point, understanding your origin story.
Yeah, this seemed particularly relevant in therapy contexts. Acknowledging past origin damage, seeing how childhood pain might still be affecting you now, it's framed as really essential for processing things and being able to move forward.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of ground covered.
Yeah.
From why sadness is hard to why it matters, and then this incredibly wide-ranging toolkit of strategies.
It really is,
Yeah.
drawing from research, philosophy, personal stories.
And it feels so much more than just academic, doesn't it? In a world that's just saturated with information and this constant pressure to seem happy.
Exactly. Understanding these nuances about sadness feels incredibly relevant to just living your life day to day.
It gives you maybe the language and the perspective to push back against some of those impossible expectations society throws at us.
Definitely. And these sources, they really do offer such a diverse range of ideas and tools.
Yeah.
You know, from the basics like talking and getting outside,
Yeah.
to the surprising impact of things like diet, or the simple power of just being kind to yourself. There's a lot in there you can explore to figure out what works for you in navigating your own emotional landscape.
And the main takeaway isn't about trying to get rid of sadness altogether, is it?
Not at all. It's much more about building resilience, learning how to simply be with the feeling when it arrives.
Right.
I think the core message, really, across all these sources is pretty clear. Sadness is fundamental. It's unavoidable. It's part of being human.
And it's not a defect.
Not a defect at all. It has value. It has purpose.
Yeah.
And learning how to handle it well, how to endure it, rather than constantly denying it or trying to numb it out.
Yeah.
That's not weakness. That's actually a profound strength.
Yeah.
It allows you to live a more full, more authentic life. It's about shaking off that shame we often attach to it.
Okay. So let's end with this then. A thought for you, the listener, to maybe sit with based on everything we've just explored. What would genuinely change in your life, maybe just in your perspective, if you truly gave yourself permission to fully experience sadness when it arises without judging it?